The tale begins in the kingdom of Viles, specifically in the Bourse Viscounty. Today, Duke Matilo is hosting a grand ball, which has caused quite the excitement among the women on the estate. In the past, when the late Duchess was alive, they used to hold magnificent balls every year. However, this year it has been challenging to prepare without a hostess. The Duke urgently needs to find a partner, and it seems that the young women are in a frenzy. One of the beautiful ladies suggested Viola since she had danced with the Duke before, to which Viola replied that Duke Matilo was indeed a true gentleman. It's no wonder that he is the most sought-after bachelor in high society. Viola seems quite interested in him, except for one person, the youngest daughter of the family, Odette Bourse. Odette pondered that Viola deserved the Duke. However, her mother remained concerned because Odette hadn't received a single proposal in 3 years. It was decided that Odette should get married this year. Suddenly, Odette fainted, causing everyone to rush to her aid. It seemed that Odette had become overly excited, which made her feel unwell. Odette's mother asked Morris to call a doctor and advised Viola that it was getting late and they should leave. Meanwhile, Morris accompanied Odette to her room along with her little sister Sasha, leaving Odette alone. As soon as Odette entered her room, she undressed and transformed into a man with a low ponytail and makeup. She had a strong desire to go somewhere else. Morris warned her that Madame and Miss Viola were still present, and if they accidentally crossed paths, things could go wrong. Odette insisted that they had to take that risk, as it was their last chance. However, Morris had a bad feeling about it and believed it would be better not to do so. Odette expressed her gratitude for his concern, but she explained that supporting their family left her with no other choice. Surprisingly, this costume turned out to be quite practical, and regardless, this time it would surely get the Duke's approval. This life marked Odette's 5th reincarnation, and she vividly remembered her past life since birth. Unfortunately, her previous life seemed to be a curse, enduring hardships and never living past 30 years. Fortune always seemed to turn its back on her. However, in this life, she was born into nobility, expecting a carefree existence. Little did she know that she would live like the daughter of an idol. As Odette arrived at Duke Matilio's residence, overhearing someone's conversation, she learned that it would take them a while to reach the ballroom. Frustrated by the long wait, Odette decided to step out of the carriage and explore the garden. Suddenly, a familiar feeling washed over her, reminding her of the last time she visited. She stumbled upon a couple discussing something, realizing that the open garden served as a secret meeting place for lovers during the ball. It had been so long since she attended a ball that she had almost forgotten. Determined to avoid being noticed, she planned to leave before anyone spotted her. However, in her distraction, she accidentally bumped into a man who turned out to be the Duke himself. Startled, she began to retreat slowly, but tripped on a rock and nearly fell. Fortunately, the Duke caught her, but someone's voice frightened him from behind, causing him to lose his grip, and the girl tumbled to the ground. The encounter between Odette and the Duke occurred approximately 3 months ago. Just then, there was a knock on the door, and Morris entered, bringing sweets and tea. He advised the girl not to overexert herself, to which she replied that if she didn't, it would create more work for him. After taking a sip of tea and expressing her delight in its deliciousness, Odette suddenly remembered that she had sent a letter inquiring about the investment. Curious, she asked the servant if there had been any response to it. To her disappointment, the servant informed her that the Duke had declined the offer. This made Odette angry and confused, prompting her to question if he had accepted lower investment rates from someone else. However, it turned out that the Duke simply believed he didn't need the help of an investor, especially since she's a woman, which only fueled Odette's anger. It's really starting to bother her. Unfortunately, in this world, women rarely have the opportunity to make a lot of money. People often say that a beautiful woman only needs to marry well, but Odette disagrees. It's also disheartening to hear phrases suggesting that a girl should find a husband who can provide her with a luxurious life, as if making money is not a woman's thing. Odette is sorry that such disgusting rules exist in this world, and it infuriates her. Everyone seems to think that she would starve if she didn't get married, which is why she came up with an idea. She tells Morris to send investment proposals to the Duke again, but this time in the name of her maternal uncle, Viscount Tarusif, who had no heir after his death. Odette believes that by assuming the identity of her grandfather, she can inherit the title and make the investment agreement work. However, there's another reason for her urgency. Viola, who will marry soon, and Sasha, who will debut soon, which requires a significant amount of money for a successful debut. Odette's mother would never allow Viola to marry an ordinary man, as a larger dowry is always preferred in noble circles. Odette realizes that life as a noble requires much more money than she initially thought. Since her father failed, it's been a major setback. Unfortunately, there are only a few businesses related to the sea in the Kingdom of Viles, namely the Presor Empire and the Kingdom of Viles. A year ago, Duke Matailo expressed his intention to establish a company for building huge ships. It started to catch the attention of investors, and it was definitely a blue-chip stock. Blue-chip stocks are known for their reliability in the financial market, so Odette felt compelled to invest in it. The Duke showed interest after reading the Viscount's new investment letter. The Duke decided to meet with the Viscount in person to discuss further details, so he sent a letter inviting him to his residence in 4 days. When Odette received the letter, she was unsure of what to do. She sought Maurice's advice on going in her place, but he mentioned that the Duke might recognize her from their previous encounter during the investment application. Odette then decided to reply to the Duke, agreeing to the meeting but also mentioning the need for a trusted assistant to accompany her. She was concerned that if her true identity was revealed, she might face rejection. On the day of the meeting, Odette disguised herself as a man to avoid suspicion. Maurice was worried about the risks involved, but Odette reassured him that she had successfully disguised herself before. However, Maurice pointed out that the Duke had a keen eye for detail. Odette realized that finding someone who could convincingly pose as a noble with a confirmed identity and reserved behavior was a challenging task. In the kingdom, the elderly king had delegated state affairs to Prince Jarabel, while Prince Bachot led the army to victory and strengthened his political position. Duke Bangelisker Cade Matailo was recognized as the knight who made the most significant contribution to the victory. When Odette presented herself to the Duke, he extended his hand and that had a handshake. She introduced herself as Viscount Tarousseff. The Duke expressed his genuine surprise at never having heard of the Tarousseff family before. Odette explained that their family was on the brink of collapse, struggling to uphold their reputation and lacking the time to collaborate with other families. Curious about their sudden wealth, the Duke inquired about the source of their investments. Odette revealed that the money had been inherited from her half-sister's late husband. Matailo then asked if he knows her half-sister. Odette pondered whether to lie or not, realizing that it could complicate matters later on. Ultimately, she disclosed that her sister was the Viscountess Bourse, only to discover that the Duke was already familiar with her family. He praised Viscountess Bourse's beauty and intelligence, mentioning that her sisters were also stunning. Odette felt uneasy that the Duke was aware of her family's background, prompting Matailo to express his desire to meet the Viscountess Bourse. One day, upon hearing these words, Odette remarked that despite her brilliance, she believed that a woman's role, based on antiquated stereotypes, was to marry because of their beauty. The Duke inquired about the Viscount's thoughts, as he seemed to have a different perspective. Despite the absence of men in the Bourse family, the eldest daughter managed things well, which piqued the Duke's interest. From a young age, she's been told that the world prefers beauty over intelligence, so it was natural that her younger siblings received more attention than her. She thought he was the same and that he hated that she was leading the family. The Duke asked if the Viscount's interest in investing in his businesses had anything to do with Lady Bourse. She responded, emphasizing her belief in the value of maritime navigation and the growth it had brought to her country. She believed that a new era focused on the vast seas was on the horizon, and ships were in high demand. The Duke asked a clarifying question, wondering if she would invest in the business if it didn't belong to him. Lady Bourse explained that shipbuilding was a complex and specialized business that required time, money, and advanced technology. It wasn't something that anyone could simply dedicate themselves to. The Duke became intrigued and remarked that it had been a while since he had met someone like the Viscount. She thought to herself, that the Duke was incredibly handsome. He was then asked by Odette if she could ask him some questions. Matailo responded by stating that the Viscount could inquire about anything confidently, but it would be his decision whether or not to answer. Odette mentioned that His Excellency could handle it himself, but questioned why he attracted investors. The Duke explained that, as Odette had mentioned, the shipping business is not an easy task and that it is actually a national project to construct ships. It is a lucrative business, but if the Duke were to continue alone, it could potentially pose a threat to the royal family, since it can become a weapon that threatens the royal family. However, if there are multiple nobles involved, it would be a different story. The Duke informed Odette that he wouldn't mind meeting her again, asking when would be a suitable time for her. They should go hunting, despite Odette's objections. In her mind, After some time, an invitation arrived from Duke Matailo. She wasn't particularly keen on going hunting, but she had no other choice. So, she patiently waited for the action to shift towards the investment. Observing the Viscount's lack of interest, the Duke remarked that apparently, hunting was too dull for her. Unlike Philin, the royal Rofe, there was no sea, which could feel suffocating. The Duke also expressed his desire to visit Philin's, where the Viscount resides, as the Duke hasn't seen the sea in a long time. Odette replied that he could come whenever he pleased and that she would take care of him. The Duke was thrilled by her response and stated that since he had been invited by the Viscount, he should come. Suddenly, he spotted 2 chickens and decided to shoot them. With a shot ringing out, he successfully hit one of them and laughed with joy. Odette realized that even a duke could find amusement like this. As the sunset approached, the Duke and the Viscount gazed into the distance. Matailo mentioned that the Viscount's property is close to the sea, implying that he must be familiar with the sea. Odette replied that she couldn't claim to know the sea well. When he believed he had grasped it, he became unfamiliar, and when he believed he didn't understand it, he became familiar once more. The Duke admitted that one thing was certain. The Viscount knew more about the sea than he did. The Duke admitted that one thing was certain. The Viscount knew more about the sea than he did. She thought it made sense that she had more knowledge about the sea, considering her past life as a diver. She impulsively asked the Duke about his investors, but he replied that he was having so much fun that he had forgotten, they needed to discuss it. Based on what she had mentioned earlier, the investment seemed normal, but the Viscount's investment was unusually large. Therefore, it was beneficial to have more investors than the amount invested. Odette didn't comprehend what he was talking about and wondered if he was still curious about where she got money. Suddenly, the Duke informed her that he had successfully secured the investors. She was shocked, questioning why he kept seeing her, and she left. The Duke explained that initially, he was intrigued by a family he had never heard of wanting to invest a significant sum of money. Then he thought she was a lot of fun, so he wanted to keep seeing her. However, when he saw the Viscount getting upset, he realized he had made a mistake and should have been honest from the beginning. Odette reassured him that it didn't matter and that she needed to return to the Philin, as she had no reason to stay in the capital. After that, she quickly departed. The Duke expressed his hope of seeing her again. It was a repulsive act on his part. He had no intention of accepting the investment and had only called her out of curiosity. Eventually, she decided, she hoped they would never cross paths again. After some time, she received 2 letters from Duke Matailo. One of the letters mentioned that the Duke wanted to discuss the investment offer seriously again and requested a personal meeting to apologize. Additionally, if she hadn't returned to Philin yet, he wanted to meet her in person and apologize. Also, there was a letter for Odette to attend the upcoming ball, leading to a rather absurd situation. As she stumbled, the Duke recognized her and offered a ride. Curiously, he questioned her about the Viscount's presence in the garden. Odette explained that she was bored waiting in the carriage, hence decided to take a stroll. The Duke's peculiar gaze triggered a memory of secret rendezvous in the garden, leading to suspicions that he thinks she came to meet someone else. The Dukes revealed he was searching for a blonde man, although the vast garden made it challenging to locate anyone. She denied seeing such an individual. She realized the Duke's elusive nature as he attempted to create a diversion in case of a scandal involving a woman. Eventually, the Duke bid farewell to the Viscount, promising to meet at the ball. The grand event unfolded beautifully, showcasing the Duke's meticulous preparations. Conversations also revolved around Countess Daisy, the younger sister of the former Duchess and the Duke Matilio's godmother, who graced the occasion as the sole lady in the ducal household. She offered a bit of help, and everyone was in awe of the Countess's remarkable insight. At the ball, all eyes were on her, speculating about who the Duke would dance with based on his actions. The Countess herself was curious about who the Duke would choose for his first dance. Odette couldn't help but wonder if they knew about his arrogance. As Odette sipped her drink, she suddenly heard someone calling her name. Startled, she turned around to find Viola, who was surrounded by admirers. Odette thought they were referring to her, but it was actually her sister. Everyone agreed that Lady Bourse was a true socialite gem, being courted by many suitors. The question on everyone's mind was who she would end up marrying. Considering how often Duke Matailo danced with Lady Bourse, it seemed like the event was tailored just for her. She was so stunning that it wouldn't be surprising if the Duke developed feelings for her. The Duke had a soft spot for Viola. Odette pondered whether the Duke's interest in her was solely due to her sister. Meanwhile, Mrs. Mullis asked Mrs. Burse why Lady Adette hadn't shown up, given the importance of her eldest daughter's wedding. Mrs. Burse explained that Adette wasn't feeling well and was resting at home. Suddenly, she spotted Adette trying to hide from the crowd. As she rushed towards her, the Duke appeared out of nowhere, requesting a dance with Lady Viola. They made a charming pair. Meanwhile, Adette struggled to compose herself as her emotions ran high.